This is the 18th season of Bass Talk Live. With your host, Matt Pankrak. BTL is brought to you by Lorraine, Bass Cat Boats, AFCO, Strike King Lures, Sunline, Big Bite Baits, Spro, X-Zone Lures, Gamakatsu, The Bass Tank, Denali Rods, and Pro Guide Batteries.
BTL, coming at you!
Good morning and welcome to another exciting edition of BTL, Bass Talk Live, where we are going to talk about bass fishing. Got a good show today. One of my favorite guests. You know, I am a history buff when it comes to bass fishing, and I think yesterday we actually had Marty Stone, analyst for MLF, on, and I mentioned that we had our guest today on, and we deemed him the Benjamin Button of bass fishing. Every year he shows up to the first tournament of the year, and he looks younger than the year before. It's some sort of miracle, especially with fishermen. You know, typically as fishermen get older, you get the weathered look, the wrinkles around the eyes, the hands. No, Bernie Schultz just shows up looking like he's out of a GQ magazine every year. That's the highest compliment. So we are going to get to Bernie Schultz. He has a lot of cool baits. We're going to go through this thing again, the cyclical thing. I think it's like fashion with fishing lures. There's certain things that work, have worked, always will work, and work again. And it goes in cycles, and it becomes fashionable, and then it becomes unfashionable. And it's kind of a lost art, the history of lures. I know is in Tulsa somewhere. It might have been at the aquarium, but they had like an antique lure museum there. And I love going through there. And seeing all of the old lures and the stuff that we think is new, that isn't new, and maybe there's some older stuff that Bernie can show us to help us put a few more fish in the boat. I also want to talk to him about what he has going on. I think he's like the master of ceremonies or the host or the guest of honor at some major lure collecting deal. But hey, before we get to Bernie, I do want to say we do have a major announcement less than an hour ago. The 2023 Bass Pro Tour roster came out on MajorLeagueFishing.com. I'm 99% sure this is right because it's so fresh out. It hasn't. It's like not in print anywhere. But I spent the last 45 minutes going through it, double checking my list. There's 80 anglers. We'll start with the guys who are out for 2023. Based on what I've said, like I said, I checked this 3 times. So if there's a guy that I'm missing or isn't, I guess it would be my fault, and you can come after me and send me emails. But Bobby Lane, we knew that. He came on. He's fishing the Opens. Paul Elias, Jason Lambert, Mike McClellan, Ish Monroe, Shaw Grigsby, and Clabion John. So that would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 anglers not returning to the 2023 BPT. Now, I don't know if some of those are because they didn't qualify via points. Some of those might be retirement. Some of those might be headed in a different direction in their careers. But those are the 7 that are out. Back, we had Tim Horton on that talked about his retirement, and he was moving on. Timmy couldn't get enough. He is back for another year of the BPT. And Keith Poche is also on that list. Now, I did a little bit more research on that. 6 days ago, Keith was on with Ricky Bosford over on the Bass 365 podcast. Kind of perused through that. And basically what Keith said, let me pull my notes here. So he is planning on fishing both. The BPT, and I'd heard about this, and this was the first time that I heard a BPT angler actually vocalize that, was that they signed something with the BPT, and I don't know how long it's been in their rules, but if they miss a day of competition that they're scheduled for to compete in another circuit, they're done. They can't come back. It's not like, hey, I missed a day and I can fish the next tournament. They're like done out of the BPT. They cannot miss a day of the BPT unless they're done. Now, based on what Keith said, Bass's rules read that you can miss a day or miss a tournament, but should you qualify for the Bassmaster Classic through the points at the end of the year, then that disqualifies you for Classic qualification. So Keith says he is going to have to miss 2 Elite Series tournaments this year because he can't miss any BPTs. He's going to fish the rest of the Elite Series, but then to keep his classic dreams alive for the following year, he's already in the 2023, but for the 2024 Classic, he is going to fish one division of the Bassmaster Opens. So that's kind of where that stands. In this year, the rookies this year, Matt Becker, Josh Butler, Mitch Crane, John Hunter, Nick LeBrun, Spencer Shuffield, and Jacob Wall. With Bobby and Ish leaving and a couple others, the list of guys that I've had so far that have bounced from the BPT in the last 4 years, and that are now on the Elite Series or fishing the Opens this year would be Jason Christie, Justin Atkins, John Cox, who's fishing just the Elite Series this year, Greg Hackney, Mike Iaconelli, Brandon Polinick, Jacob Porosnik, and the G-Man, Gerald Swindle. So a lot of moving and shaking. There's still Bassmaster Classic berths on the line this week on Pickwick, Bass Nation National Championship. One Elite Series berth. Matty Wong there, who made the Elite Series this year, he's defending his title on Pickwick. Interesting to see how that goes down. That's a lot of names, a lot of numbers, a lot of stats. Now I'm ready to talk old Bates with BTL fan favorite Bernie Schultz. Bernie, that was a lot of names and numbers and trying to figure out what the heck is going on, huh?
Yeah, it is. It's kind of a shocker, really, some of the names that aren't on the list. I figured Shaw and Paul would still be at it. I'm not sure what's – Shaw's my neighbor. He only lives as a crow flies a few miles from the house, but probably 2 miles. But I haven't talked to him, so I don't know where he's at, what his headspace is right now.
And like I said, I don't know. I mean, dude, Shaw and Paul, I mean, Elias was kneeling and reeling and winning classics before I was born, Bernie. So, I mean, that's 4 decades of this stuff. So, I mean, I don't know where it is as far as retirement, or if it was a points deal, or if they're just taking a break. But we'll figure all that out. It's kind of my job with the BTL show here to figure that out. So we'll cross that bridge as soon as I get to it. But like I said, that list just came out about 45 minutes ago over on MLF. But I was surprised. There are some names on there that I thought were going to the Opens. You know, you just hear stuff through the grapevine. Imagine that, bass fishermen talking, Bernie, through the grapevine, and they're back. And then some surprise names that I thought were back that aren't. And then the whole Keith Poche thing. But hey, it is what it is. You've been through this every year for the past couple decades.
Yeah, I mean, I jumped around a little bit. I did FLW and then came back to bass. I did both simultaneously when you could, back before there was conflicts in the schedules. How these guys manage, like John Cox, how he manages to do both tours is amazing to me. But anyway, that's kind of the nature of the beast. You know, guys go where their sponsors want them to, or they go where there's a path of least resistance. Maybe they like the schedule better. Maybe they got frustrated with the tour, who knows, but there's all kinds of reasons for moving.
Ideally, Bernie, if you were to poll the top 200 anglers, let's just do BPT and Elite Series guys, and say, hey, take politics out, take tours out. What is the ideal number of tour level events in a year? Because you've got roughly it's 8 to 10 now, depending on the specialty events and the classic. But if you were to just poll them, how many do you guys want to fish a year? Take all the politics out.
I'm comfortable with the number there is, but I have a lot of other things going on, you know, business obligations and whatnot. But, you know, some guys want to fish more, some want to fish less. I think 10 is a really good number. Everybody's different. I can't speak for the other guys. I can just tell you what works for me at this stage of the game.
I got you. It's interesting because it's a week long. It's grueling for these tournaments by the time you do the practice in either 3 or 4 day tournament. You know, so it's kind of hard. Well, I guess golf is like that, but you can compete in however many up to 35 golf tournaments, all the individual sports, NASCAR, the bowling. It seems like there's a lot more opportunities at that top level. And then as you climb those ranks and you get exemptions and you can fish or compete at the higher, then you see the guys kind of paring back. But I feel like for the majority, those guys, when they're in their 20s and 30s and 40s, I mean, it's like 9 months out of the year in a lot of the other individual sports, 25, 30, 35 events.
Yeah, it can be overwhelming, and for some it's not enough. I mean, there's guys that just live on the road, and I was that guy when I was a lot younger and single and no really major responsibilities. But as time goes on, you know, family and business obligations, sponsor obligations. I also do a lot of writing, as you know.
Yep.
So it's juggling all that. 10 tournaments to me is plenty. I also like saltwater fishing. That's kind of my passion. When I'm not on the tour, I'm home and saltwater fishing with my son and some other guys I know. But everybody's different, you know. Just kind of whatever suits your style.
All right, let's talk about fishing a little bit because you had a very interesting 2022. You had a reverse Bernie Schultz year.
Yeah.
Usually you'll pop a good one in the middle and then you'll kind of struggle during the middle and then it's like, oh, we got Bernie up north and it's just boom 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 and you're fighting right there for the classic berth. Well, this year I was like, dang, Bernie's on fire. He's putting himself in good position. But you kind of reversed it. All your good ones were at the beginning, and then you kind of struggled one by the time we got up north, where you typically catch their butt.
Yeah, I mean, it was a great start. The wheels fell off at Toledo Bend. I had a very unusual thing happen. It's completely frustrating, and just to even think back on it. On this, I caught him pretty good the first day, not great, but I was in contention. And the second morning, first thing in the morning, I hook a 6-pounder on a topwater walking bait, and the fish jumps a couple of times, and I think I'm home free, and then it jumps a third time, and my line goes slack. And I thought, how could I have broken this fish off? It was the rig I was using was set up for snook. I mean, I catch big fish on that rig, and I was stunned that it came off. Well, I reel my line in, and there's a perfect loop knot at the end of my line. The line didn't break. The line tie in the lure pulled out of the lure. And from that point on, it was just a string of lost fish. That day, the next tournament. And I can't explain it, just really bad luck on trying to land fish. I don't think it was anything mechanic-wise or technique-wise. I just think I got in a string of just bad, you know, percentages. Kind of recovered a little bit at the St. Lawrence, but on day 3 of the St. Lawrence, I lost my 2 biggest fish, and those would have put me in the top 10, and just from there I could never recover.
I think you meant Fork. I think you said Toledo Bend. Fork?
Yes, I'm sorry. Fork.
It's all good. I just want to make sure that it was Fork because I looked at because you had like almost 16 pounds on the first day. Is that the first time in competition you've had a bait come apart while you're fighting a fish like that, or the split ring come out of the what is the thing that screws into the nose?
Yeah, the line tie pulled out.
Yeah, the line tie pull out.
I've had hook hangers pull out of a bait, especially on lipless baits or crankbaits, but never a line tie on a topwater walking bait. And this is a big bait. I was throwing a big bait to cull fish from the, you know, with my technique. And it's a bait I use for snook fishing. I'm not going to say the brand because it's not one I represent, and I don't want to throw anybody under the bus. It may have been an anomaly. I don't know, but that shouldn't happen. The line tie should not give way on the nose of the lure. And that was really frustrating. That fish would have set me up for the rest of the day. Instead, it was the start of the fall.
What's crazy to me, and you know, I talk to a lot of guys and hear a lot of stories, and then fish the open. I've fished a bunch of opens over the last 3 years. Does it feel like there's like some sort of weird force where crazy stuff happens at the most inopportune times in bass fishing, where the fishing gods are going to be like, you think you've got it figured out? We're going to throw this at you that literally you can catch 5,000 fish and it'll never happen. And the one that you need in the exact moment on the day that you need it, when you need it, the weird voodoo stuff starts raining down. Is that just me, or is that something that is a real thing?
No, that's me. You just described me to a T. I'm not a lucky person, or unless you consider bad luck. I find a way to mess things up pretty regularly. But there's been a lot of those over the years. Things that prevented me from winning, things that prevented me from making classics, or good checks in individual events. Whatever. It's just it's part of it. But I've had breaks too. I've had opportunities that I probably shouldn't have been afforded go my way. So. Hopefully it averages out. It's weird. I always remember the negative things more so than the good, positive things when I look back over my career, it's just kind of frustrating in that regard.
Which is weird because you've had an amazing career. It's weird. I was talking with Brad Hallman, who will be joining you on the Bassmaster Elite Series in
Yeah, that's cool.
2023.
I like Brad.
Yeah, had fished it I think for 3 or 4 years there from 2006 to like 2009, and I was bitching and moaning about bad luck happening to me, and he goes, dude, here's the reality, because he had a lot of stuff happen the same thing this year, right? And then critical fish, massive fish, 5-pounder on a top water. He knows he has to finish in the top 20 to make the Elite Series. He has this fish whooped. It's all on camera. You guys should watch it on his YouTube. He's like, I got her. You know, it's the morning of day 2, the final day of the Opens. This is the fish. And his co-angler goes, watch that brush pile. And he goes, what, bro? And now it's stuck in the brush pile. And he had it beat on a top water. And line slack. He's literally telling his co-angler, dude, this has happened all year to me. I've lost the key fish. He goes, that brush pile came out of nowhere. He works on it for 2 or 3 minutes. Co-angler goes, there's your bait. Well, it was another bait from someone else that had broken off in the tree, so it wasn't his bait. So he's like, my bait's still in the tree. He's got a spook with, 3 sets of treble hooks on. And they look down and the fish is pinned up against it. They pull the entire brush pile into the boat. The fish is still on there after 3 minutes. And it's the single bite. He didn't call anything else the rest of the day. It's the single bite that got him back on the Elite Series.
How about that?
He said he had like 15 things go wrong all year where he's looking to be like, oh, I wouldn't have to catch him. They're coming off at the boat. And he said then at one moment, everything turned. And now he's ready to go out and beat the world.
Yeah, I needed a couple of those this year. I can relate. I can fully relate to all that. But I didn't get the gift at the end that I needed.
All right. I mentioned this before I brought you on, and I couldn't remember based on our conversation that I had. Are you the distinguished guest of honor at one of the best and most prestigious bait and antique tackle collecting? What's going on, Bernie?
No, I'm a co-host.
Okay.
The Florida club that I belong to hosts a number of shows each year, the Florida Antique Tackle Collectors. And there are clubs around the country. The club that I partnered with, there's a guy named Steve Herzog and another guy named Harry Matthews that belong to the Carolina Antique Tackle Collectors. And the three of us got together and we're hosting a show in Savannah, Georgia. It starts Thursday, runs through Sunday at the Embassy Suites right off I-95 in North Savannah. And basically there's no guest of honor about it. I'm bottle washer, floor janitor, sweeper, whatever. I'm doing it all. And those guys are actually, they're picking up the most of it. Great partners. And the show's sold out. Even in spite of the hurricane, people are still coming, and which is a pretty strong statement. And I'm rolling out of here. As soon as we're done here, I'm going to roll out and get up there and do my part.
Sold out as far as people who have bought booths to sell and show antique tackle? Because I just pulled it up. It's fatc.net.
Correct.
Okay,
FATC.
I'm going to show it on the screen here because I didn't realize that. So this thing's open to the public. So for $5, you can roll into Savannah, hang out with you, and see all sorts of cool stuff from the past.
Oh, there's a bunch of guys. There's guys that are way more knowledgeable than I am, and they'll see some incredible exhibits. Yeah, that's it. It's to me, it's pretty special. It's the tools of my trade. I love antique tackle. It's not just the lures themselves, but how they evolved in our culture and how they speak to the history of our sport. They define the history of our sport along with the people that developed the lures. But it's a way for guys that have the same passion to get together and swap, sell, trade. It's a fun event, and you learn a lot. You see a lot of cool stuff that you won't see otherwise.
Now, I would imagine that based on where you are in Florida, Florida has a lot of anglers, a lot of people who of all ages. You have young and then you have old, you got the retired, you got the snowbirds. So I would imagine when it comes to, Florida would have to be number one for a list of guys who collect antique lures because you've got people from all over the country in different species and different genres that all end up in Florida with spare time on their hands to share their passion.
Yeah, we get a lot of people from up north as they retire or just come to visit. And the wintertime is kind of our season when that happens. And our regular show at Daytona, which is our biggest event every year, that's canceled for now. The hotel's under repair because of the last hurricane. It's on Daytona Beach, and Daytona took a pretty good lashing from the last storm, and now it's getting another one this week. So the Savannah show kind of gained popularity in a hurry because of that, that other show canceling. There used to be a show in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, and that show no longer is in existence. So our show kind of blew up in short order. It's the first annual. It's called the Savannah Southern Classic. It's the first annual event. The hotel sold out. The room, conference room with tables are all sold out. It's going to be pretty active. And like I said, this is not an ideal week to be hosting a show because Florida's, under all kinds of warnings and storm alerts, but people are finding their way there.
Huh. So what are you taking?
I'm taking a bunch of different things, really. A little bit of Florida stuff that I collect and some miscellaneous companies. There's all kinds of areas to collect antique tackle. There's guys that are dedicated to reels, guys that are dedicated to rods. Other people collect minnow buckets, lures. Some guys like metal lures, some guys like wood lures, some guys like color collecting, and gals. I shouldn't exclude any. There's women collectors that are very passionate about it and advanced in their collecting. So there's something for everybody. There's a lot of young kids and we need more of that. We need to recruit some young people, and so that they gain an appreciation for our history in the sport of fishing, and as well as the antiquities that kind of go along with that, the angling artifacts that we, guys like me and the guys I'll be sharing this week with have a passion for. And I think it's important. It almost feels like a little bit like we're a dying breed. I wish this younger generation would really embrace what came before them and go to shows and learn about the history of our sport and the lure development, which is kind of unique to our culture. There were lures overseas, which we've talked about on previous podcasts, but the lure, as you know it, the plug, the wooden plug, that's an invention in our culture, in our country. And the development is, run for 150 years now, I guess, 130 anyway, on developing lures. And you talked about it before I came on that, there's no real new ideas in fishing. That's not exactly accurate, but a lot of the stuff that people assume are new today were actually being developed or conceived 100 years ago. So,
to catch bass or just to catch fish?
Fish, but bass, there was a whole slice of the market back in the beginning that targeted bass, muskie, and pike. Those were the three given, game fish species that were targeted most in freshwater as far as lure development. That doesn't speak to fly fishing for salmon and trout and all that. That's a whole other, group in itself. And those guys come to our shows as well. But it's just, it was species related. Some guys back then, or people I should say, fished for table fare, it was to survive in many cases. Others did it for sport. The elite did it for sport. But it's just, to me, it's so interesting and such a compliment to our culture, how it developed in the United States, in North America, really. The Canadians had a big part in it.
And then when this stuff all started, it was mostly trolling, wasn't it? Because with the technology to cast and retrieve really wasn't there with the line and the length and the high-end reels until, that was later, right? It was all trolling.
Yeah, well, a little of both. Keep in mind back then, in the very beginning, there weren't power boats. So people sculled or they rowed to drag lures behind the boat. But there was casting, and smart anglers probably used current to their advantage to get their lures to loft in the water column. A lot of the lures that were early were subsurface lures. There were topwater baits, but very few, and those kind of evolved. Nowadays there's so many topwater concepts and designs, it's unlimited really. But the earliest minnows were subsurface baits for the most part, and trolling was definitely an approach, but casting, also had a big play in it.
What's your favorite? Like, what's your jam? What are you known for in the industry?
For antique stuff,
Yeah.
I'm all over the map.
Oh, really?
I've got some stuff to show you here, but I'm all over the map. I like metal. I like wood. I like plastic. I like gadgetry stuff that was probably, just not very effective at catching fish and didn't have a long lifespan on the market. Those a lot of times end up being the most collectible pieces. They didn't survive, so not many of them were made. I like articulating baits that move and have hinges and, kind of different features, whatnot. But I'm all over the place. I can show you some stuff that I'm taking to the show.
I'm just curious. So even back then, over 100 years ago, they had gimmick baits.
Absolutely. Novelty lures is what we call them.
Novelty lures. And they were designed just like there are novelty lures out there today to get the guy who's like, that looks cool, I'm buying it at the hardware store.
Well, go back in recent years, the kinds of lures that won Best of Show at ICAST. Those lures, most of them don't have a shelf life for any length of time. They're novelty lures, but it's just, I'm sure the inventor had the best intentions and thought he had the last word in catching fish, but the public decides that, and the fish decided ultimately. So if the lure doesn't produce, it's gone. So I kind of look for those. I like the obscure. I'm going to show you some baits real quick while we're on the subject, because I know you're going to move along. This is a glass minnow tube. Let me get this.
There you go.
Yeah.
And then a little bit over and then up. Yep. Okay. Four hooks, and it literally is a glass tube with 4 hooks on it.
That's right. And this is the cap. There's a cap right here. I'll just turn it. You can see it.
Yep.
Okay. That's an aluminum cap that slides up that loop of wire that you see, which is also the line tie. That's where you would tie your line right there.
Okay.
And you slide that cap up and insert a minnow. I'm losing my coordinates here. You put a minnow inside, and the idea was that it would keep the minnow alive for multiple presentations or multiple fish, multiple catches. And you didn't have to go through a bunch of live bait that way. And they were used for other type of critters like grasshoppers and crickets and lizards, whatever. People stuck all kinds of things in these tubes, and there's quite a few of these out there, so they must have been somewhat successful in sales. There were a number of different manufacturers, and they evolved eventually into celluloid and plastic tubes because glass breaks so easily. This is
just
a glass.
Have a big pike come up and just crush it.
Oh yeah, I'm sure that happened.
And then there's no way to land them because all the hooks are attached to the glass tube.
Yeah, exactly. But they're pretty fragile, but they're out there, and it's a cool collectible. There's a lot of guys out there that focus on these, or they are a part of their collection.
Wow.
And that's a glass minnow tube. This is made by the Detroit Glass Minnow Tube Company, and there's other. Like I said, other brands.
As you show them, I'm going to describe them for our iTunes and podcast listeners, or you can describe them too, just so they can get a mental visual as they're
well, this one
listening.
It's like a test tube. Really, it looks like a test tube with a glass cylinder, and it's got this one has the design on this one. Some of them have a cap at the rear, some have a cap at the nose. This one's at the nose. It's a sliding aluminum disc that just covers the opening. Mm-hmm. And it creates a chamber inside where a minnow is supposedly able to survive. I don't know how, but that was the concept. And then the hooks are attached to wire harnesses on the outside of the lure.
The antique lure guys were not very big on changing out trebles, were they? Like, I mean, when you buy a bait, you're fishing with the hook that it came on.
Yeah, but you know what? They're incredibly sharp. The better the lure back in the day. I mean, I've got lures that are pre 1910. That are better points than some of the lures you get today off the shelf, by far. I mean, they're incredibly sharp. Now, here's another interesting bait. This is a Eager frog. It was made by Eager Bait Company. The guy that developed this was William Eager or Billy Eager, and he was a frog farmer. He sold frog legs to restaurants around the country, and then he figured out a process to utilize the skin from the frogs that he was harvesting and stretch it over a wood body. So that's actual frog skin draped over a wooden body. It's got glass eyes, if you can see those.
Yeah, yeah. It's a familiar. It's somewhat of a Zara spook cigar walking bait shape.
Yes, this is a topwater bait, and I'm sure it was used for walking. Although the head's a little bulbous, it might have bobbed a little more than walked. But this guy is highly collectible. Before the frog skin concept was developed, he was actually painting these lures, and the earliest painting models on this same body are very desirable. They're much rarer. Then when he developed the frog skin overlay, that took off. In fact, he licensed that to other companies like Shakespeare and Paw Paw, which were big manufacturers back in the day, and they utilized the same process. Now, whether they did it or they farmed it out to him, that's a subject of debate, but pretty cool concept. And so the concept is simple. It's to make the bait look as lively and accurate to true life as possible.
Okay. I'm on the internet here perusing. So something that was revolutionary when I heard it come out was, did Lucky Craft not have a real skin jerkbait where they stretched fish skin over a pointer and then it would, as you fished it, it would get more beat up? But isn't that kind of the same thought as what he was doing with the frogs?
Yeah, like I said, there's not many new ideas in fishing. Yeah, there's people that are they're still making skin body lures now. They use snake skin and different reptiles and whatnot. Mm-hmm. So yeah, the concept is still being utilized, but Billy Eager was the first to develop and patent it, and he shared it for a cost. Kind of like the salt impregnation thing with soft plastics. Those guys that invented that are licensing that to other companies and making a royalty on that. But anyway, yeah, that's that. And then here's one of my favorite plastic lures. I think I might have shown this to you in previous podcasts. This is a Super Strike shrimp, and it's an articulating lure. As you can see, the body's multi-jointed, and it's made of celluloid, an early celluloid. And what's cool about this, it was developed in St. Augustine, Florida, which at the time was the shrimp harvesting capital of the United States. And it still is today a big player in the shrimp harvesting, shrimp industry. Uh-huh. Well, this guy was a osteopath I'm sorry, I'll take that back. He was a dentist in St. Augustine, and he fished, and he saw an opportunity to make a artificial shrimp. And he developed one of the coolest baits of all time. The eyes, if you can see those, are ladies' hat pins from the period. They're glass black hat pins. And he utilized those to make it look more lifelike. And then he painted all the accents on the inside of the lure body. This guy was thinking outside the box. Most lures are painted outside. This guy painted them on the inside because he didn't want fish to be able to remove the color as they wore on the lure, chewing on it.
That's smart.
Yeah, so it's a very cool lure. These are highly collectible, and that's called a Super Strike shrimp out of St. Augustine, Florida.
I drew a guy in the last. I drew a Cajun out of South Louisiana in the last open, and he was like, "Man," he's like, "You go down around me and you want to catch bass." He goes, "If you have 12 shrimp," he goes, "you put them under a cork and you'll catch 12 bass." I said, right. Really? I said, no. Shrimp are that big? He said that bass absolutely love shrimp, and they even use a lot of shrimp imitating soft plastics, flipping and pitching it around the grass and the mats there to catch largemouth.
Yeah, St. Augustine, I'm back on St. Augustine, excuse me. The St. John's River is a hotbed for shrimp fishing for bass. Yeah.
I just think of that. I mean, I'm in Oklahoma, but I mean, just covering all those tournaments in Florida, I don't ever remember anyone getting on a shrimp pattern.
Well, it's the time of year. We're always there in early spring, and the shrimp runs in the summer through fall.
Oh, okay.
And, but it's definitely it's a deal. A lot of the docks come to life because the shrimp are around lighted docks and whatnot, and the bass will use those for ambush points. But lot of people mistake shrimp that are flipping and leaping out of the water being chased for shad. They think they're shad and they're actually shrimp. But yeah, that's a phenomenon on the St. Johns River, and it's an annual event. And there's guys that go over there just to throw cast nets for shrimp, not just for fishing, but to eat. It's a pretty strong run. I mean, they load up that river at times.
That sounds like it'd be fun.
Yeah, it is. Well, I travel with Cliff Prince. He's a master at that. He knows all about that.
But I mean, dude, you could like catch a bucket of shrimp to eat, catch a 20-pound bag of fish that are eating on the shrimp.
Yeah,
like that's
could.
a day.
Yeah, you sure could. Yeah.
All right. What else you got?
I'm going to show you my coolest frog.
Is that the one you sent me the picture of?
Yes. This is the coolest frog of all time to me. It's not the oldest and probably one of the rarest, though. It's called a mather frog. It's very delicate. Okay. If you look at this thing, it's got a fan blade on the belly. Okay. That's the belly of the frog. Kind of hard to hold this thing.
Holy cow.
Okay. As you pull it through the water, that fan blade turns. And then if you look above the lure, there's like a wire form that runs through the center of the body, and it connects to the legs. There's a apparatus on the tail, or actually between the legs. As the fan blade turns, it rotates that wire form, which is connected to the legs, and makes the legs kick. And one of the legs is disconnected, but that's what it looks like.
So it's literally like a ceiling. So picture just a carved wooden frog with different sections on the leg, and the bottom legitimately looks like a ceiling fan.
Absolutely.
It's a ceiling fan attached to the bottom.
It is.
And then the stuff on the top looks like one of those suspension or one of those bridges like in Florida that you see where they like kind of angle up into like the triangle deal on the top.
Yeah.
Oh, and then there's a prop on the back.
No, actually, that's the legs attached to that piece.
Okay, I got you.
Right there, and that's what makes the legs go up, back and forth. As you can see, the legs are hinged right here.
Yep.
And as the prop turns, the wire form turns, and this piece right here will go up and down, but the legs are disconnected right now, so it's kind of fragile.
I mean, how does that work after one eats it, that thing is not just absolutely mangled, Bernie?
I only know of 2 of these in existence, so that tells you your answers right there. They didn't survive.
Are those the feet, what are the feet made out of?
They're metal.
Metal feet.
Yeah, the upper legs are wood. The torso or the head and the body of the frog, I'm off the screen here, sorry.
Yeah, you're good.
All that's wood, and then the lower section of the legs, this part, and then the feet are all metal. And it's
That's
actually
fantastic.
pretty heavy. Yeah, this thing definitely, there's no way it floated. You would think it would be designed to float, but I can't imagine this thing being buoyant.
I mean, obviously that'll never see water or know exactly what it looks like, but I would love to just see what the heck that thing did in the water.
Yeah, well.
I mean, what do you think it does as you pull it? So it goes brrr, and the fan blades below spin to cause commotion.
Correct.
And then do the legs kick also?
Yes, the fan blade forces the legs to kick. That's the mechanism that makes the legs contract and expand, or, I don't know what the kind of buckle and then extend. But that's it. That's a mather frog, and they're rare as hen's teeth. That's probably the best bait I got.
So, like, when you take that, are you assuming you're not having it for sale, but you'll take it to show the?
Yeah, I've got a small frog collection. I've shown it a couple times. I'm going to take some of those up there, and being a host, I'm not going to really have an opportunity to spend a lot of time at my own table and talk about baits and whatnot. I'll be trying to make sure people get what they need and get set up where they want to be, and just kind of managing the show with my co-hosts.
All right, that's good stuff. Hey, I get all into the baits and stuff. We got to take a break, and when we come back, we'll wrap up the bait talk. And then you mentioned something about the history of the sport, young people involved, young people not involved. A couple icons of the sport passed away recently.
Yeah.
That were very involved. Well, the reason we're sitting here, the reason I'm sitting here today, the reason you're sitting there today.
Yep.
And I would I just like to get kind of your take on that.
You have to.
So, BTL on a Wednesday with Bernie Schultz showing off. What was the name of that? A Rather or a Mather frog?
Mather, like Jerry Mather, the beaver. You remember
showing
that?
off the Mather frog.
Yeah, the Mather frog.
BTL, we'll be back right after this.
Your key to better fishing this season is Elite FS, now available at a new lower price. Get Elite FS9 today for $9.99, and we'll throw in a C-Map reveal chart, our premium mapping solution, for free. Elite FS works with all state-of-the-art Lowrance sonar, from chirp, side scan, and down scan imaging with fish reveal to high-resolution active target live sonar. Elite FS9 and C-Map reveal. Offer ends August 31st.
The new Puma STS has been redesigned from the ground up. With the angler, design, function, and performance in mind, nothing on this new offering was compromised, and the only thing carried over from the previous version is the name. Based on the Soft Touch series hull that started with the flagship Jaguar, this new model is nimble and performs incredibly well at all speeds with either a 250 or 300 horsepower engine. Featuring a new 96-inch wide-body footprint, this hull measures out at 20 foot 7 inches in length. Industry-leading design coupled with tournament-winning performance. The Puma STS from Basscat. Feel the rush.
We're just about ready to go, ladies and gentlemen. Get in order.
Once again, Drew Cook is in the driver's seat.
When you're catching fish for a living, you can't let a little cold, rain, heat, humidity, or anything else get in the way of a payday. I wear APCO. Any fish, any water.
The KVD 100 jerkbait. 15 different colors. A perfect combination of roll, wiggle, and flash. Increased castability. 3D eyes. Premium black nickel hooks. KVD. Tie one on. Striking lures.
Are you looking to install your own fishing electronics? Well, the Bass Tank is here to help you. The solution is the Bass Tank Power Harness. It takes the guesswork out of installation. No more voltage issues or interference. Designed by an engineer so that you can get professional results right there in your own garage. Installation done right with the help of the Bass Tank Power Harness. You can feel confident knowing that your installation was done right. The Bass Tank Power Harness. Give us a call or order yours today at thebasstank.com.
Elite Series Pro Daryl Gleason here. My Pro Guide batteries keep me going on those long tournament days and long practice days. Always plenty of juice, never fail. The best part about Pro Guide batteries, it's the people behind the company. They have over 40 years experience in the battery business, keeping all of us fishermen out on the water longer, catching more fish. Check them out at ProGuideBatteries.com.
What's up, Bass Talk Live fans? Brandon Polnick here. And ever since I won a couple Bassmaster Elite Series events on X-Zone Lures, I've been getting a bunch of questions of what makes them so special and different. And really, the truth is, it's in the details. The little details, things like no cheap fillers in their plastic. That gives you more lifelike action, more realistic and vibrant colors. But don't just take my word for it. Go to www.xzonelures.com and check them out for yourself.
All right, we are back, BTL, on a Wednesday with Bernie Schultz, showing off some stuff that, could you pay could you put someone through college with that lure, or is that is there a small niche? I mean, I know you don't have to tell me exactly how much it's worth, but I mean, are we talking lots of zeros on that, or is it one of those things that's hard to find, but the demand isn't high for it?
Well, they're so obscure, most people aren't even aware of them. Even most collectors aren't even aware of them. These things are only worth what somebody's willing to pay for them, and to try and put a value on them, values fluctuate with the economy, with demand. To me, it's worth a lot. It's priceless to me just because I like it so much, but I'm sure somebody out there could put a price on it.
Hey,
I'm not interested in selling it. So
I know. But do they still do the What's It Worth feature every month in Bassmaster?
Yes, they do. Still do that. It's not always accurate, but they still do that.
I remember one time I had a old eagle claw rod that I think my uncle had given me from New Orleans. And it looked old. And I just remember one time I was like reading Bassmaster. This was a long time ago. Like I was probably still a kid. And I was like, this rod has to be worth something. Just looked expensive and old. And I remember that rod showed up in What's It Worth? And I was pumped. And then I was just heartbroken. It was worth like $25.
Yeah. It comes down to how many were made, how many were sold. The rarity is such a key factor. But like I talked earlier about, it's things that are odd, unusual, mechanical, lures that articulate, early lures, that's part of the, developing stages of it. Those are kind of key things that dictate demand and value.
You know what the craziest thing is? Like, yeah, we all like look at it, those they got fan belts and joints and all this stuff. But like, if you probably the most effective bait, like Cinco, does nothing. Gary Yamamoto designed it after this pen right here. And it's like such a polar opposite of that stuff. Is just not as sexy, but that probably puts more fish in the boat, especially in Florida, than anywhere else.
Yeah, that thing works. It's universal. I don't know anywhere you could go and the bass exists and not coax a bass to eat it. Speaking of those, you saw the fish I sent you a picture of. That was, I don't know if you can put that up.
You sent me that this morning. I would have to email it to myself, but that was a fall fish.
I caught that just a few days ago on the new Speed Cinco. Speaking of Yamamoto. Yeah, you're getting there.
That thing looks like a fish that's ready to spawn. Are they ready to spawn down there already, Bernie?
No, I'm in North Florida. Now, that can happen in South Florida in November, but that fish is just healthy. It's been eating well. I was fishing with a buddy of mine, and he's a guy that kind of taught me the ropes when I first started. He's 82 now. We call him Coach Tanner. He's kind of an icon in our area here in Gainesville area of North Central Florida. But anyway, I got him out on the water, and we went through a bunch of different lures and techniques, and the Speed Cinco was the ticket. I mean, we caught.
Is that new? I didn't even know Yamamoto. They didn't even know they made a Speed Cinco.
It's brand new. It was introduced at ICAST, and it's very similar to. I mean, as far as profile, it looks like a lot of other speed worms. The difference is when a fish bites it, they don't let go. It's that same property with a regular Cinco. Once they get it in their mouth, there's something about the silica and salt makeup of the bait that just the fish feels alive to them, I guess, and they just don't let go.
Yeah, but there it is. Huh.
I don't know if you can put that up there, but it's an awesome bait. I was using a 7-inch model, and they were eating the paint off of that thing.
There it is.
There you go. Now you can fish it both ways. The paddle gives it more of a thump, or you can break that little connecting piece, and it'll be more of a swimming tail, and it flutters more that way. I was using it as a paddle, and that big fish swallowed it. I mean, it was fun. It was a fun day. We caught over 30 fish in just a few hours, and for an 82-year-old that doesn't get on the water much, he had a really good time.
You talk about paddles like that kind of on plastic baits. I remember one that I used to, back when I was fishing out of the back of the boat in the Assumption Bass Club, I was a huge Ugly Otter fan, and it had a big, thick paddle tail on the back, and when you reeled it in, you could feel that big paddle tail going blow, 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 blow. You remember the Ugly Otter?
Yeah. Paddle tails that's kind of a Florida thing. I mean, my first exposure to those were in tidal rivers. Something about maybe it mimicked a needlefish. I don't know what else it could really resemble, but bass really showed a preference for those in tidal rivers. And then I started figuring out they worked in lakes. Shaw Grigsby and I won a tournament together on the Mississippi Delta. It was the Hydrosport East-West Championship. And we won it with a crankbait that at the time he was working with Bagley, and they had a fluorescent series of Killer B2s. And that was his go-to. And I was throwing a paddle tail worm, and we won the event with those two baits. And we had never been there before. We showed up with a half a day of practice, and just did what we felt comfortable, the same approach we'd use to the tidal rivers in Florida on the West Coast. And we ended up catching enough fish to win. And a paddle tail was a big player in that. It works on Lake Seminole. It works on Okeechobee, the Kissimmee chain, anywhere in Florida, a paddle tail, the St. Johns River. It's a really good bait.
I feel like there's been some top 10s on that kind of speed worm style bait like that up at Champlain even.
Yeah,
in the shallow grass. I remember covering one and guys were burning that paddle tail worm style bait through Florida style. Like I remember them being like, "Holy cow, we're catching them like Florida up here, except they're 4-pound largies."
Yeah, that's where
up
it
north.
shines. Is shallow grass flats. It's ideal. It comes through anything. And it's like reeling a spinnerbait. I mean, you just throw it out there and reel it in.
You know what probably doesn't come through grass? That frog lure.
No, that frog lure would not come through grass.
That is open water exclusively.
Yeah, it looked like a 1962 motor guide wrapped up with reeds.
You got anything else you want to show before we move on?
Nothing. One bait that I do want to show this. This is a cool bait. And I know you got a lot of swim bait followers out there. This is a bait that I'm excited about. I've been catching snook with it. And I got to open the package up. These are hard to get. People are going to have to look far and wide to find them.
But it's a fishing bait, like something that you use now.
This is a Shimano Arma joint. And it's a new swim bait. And this thing it kicks butt. Give me 1 second. They got this thing wrapped up like it's...
I know. I've noticed they do that now, especially the little specialty lures. They'll put like all sorts of twist ties and stuff in them.
Yeah.
That's pretty.
Isn't that a gorgeous bait?
Yeah.
Okay. Now this bait's got 2 hinges in it, a midsection hinge and then a tail hinge. It's got the flash boost feature, which you can see flickering in there. My lighting's so bad.
Yeah, that's what they came out with the jerk bait a couple years ago with that little prism thing in there that moves
last
when
year.
it's
That's right. Yeah, I caught a bunch of fish on the St. Lawrence tournament that I led for a few days on the jerkbait that had the flash boost feature, and they incorporated that in the Arma joint. And this bait has a beautiful swimming action. What it does is that other baits don't do. It'll fold completely in half like that. Wow. And when you're wondering probably what advantage does that have? What it does is it allows you to throw this thing a country mile. There's like no wind resistance. It doesn't sail. It just collapses. And once it hits the water, it opens up, regains its normal swimming profile. And it's got
swimming or glide?
It's kind of tight.
Okay.
It's not a wide gate, real wobbling types.
Boy, that looks like a great herring bait, Bernie. When they're on those big herring during the herring spawn on those Carolina lakes. For that.
Yeah, I plan on making this bait work big time when we get up to Lake Murray. It's on the schedule this year, and that's whoops, I'm gonna break it. That's a herring lake, as you well know. But anyway, I've been using it on snook.
Hey, look, it's also under $50. That's a first for a big jointed swim bait.
Yeah, it's a beautiful bait, and it's super, super well made. But I'll tell you one thing it does that other baits don't do that I've played with. Now, I'm not Brandon Polnick on swim baits, but this bait does something really unique, and I figured it out in my pool. When you pause this bait, it does an immediate about face. And I don't know if you've ever talked to Fritz about that, if you've done a podcast with Fritz, but Fritz always wanted a crankbait when it was paused on deep structure. When he paused it, he wanted it to turn. And a lot of people don't know that. I learned about it through Mark Fisher when he designed DTs with David Fritz, when David was with Rapala. And one of the ideas, swimming concepts that he was after trying to incorporate in the bait was to have it do an about face when it was paused. And this bait does that. When you're swimming it along and it stops, it swings right around. It's the craziest thing. And to me, if you've got a big bass tracking the bait, he's never seen that before. And it kind of forces the issue for that fish. He's got to either bite it or run from it. And generally, a predator fish is going to react to something like that. And I just think that's a cool feature that I don't even know if the bait designers realized it, but I saw it in my pool, and I really like that aspect of the bait.
So you're thinking it's the fish going, I'm tracking, oh crap, it sees me. I have one decision to make. It knows it's there and it's now or never. And boom.
Exactly.
I didn't know Fritz was into that. I mean, that's fascinating stuff.
Yeah, you should talk to him about it. Get him on. I don't know if Fritz is coming back this year. I'm going to be disappointed if he's not, but I heard rumors that he's retiring. I don't know if that's true or not.
I don't know. I've gotten to be in the boat with him one time on Gunnersville in a media event. Like I said, most of this is not by choice. He was scheduled with me for 2 hours. Anyway, we were out there and I was doing some stories, and he told me the story about how he like broke down or something happened one day of a tournament and he only had 1 4-pounder. And was it Dewey at the time, or the tournament director? Yeah, was like, hey, you want to get the fish in? And he's like, nah, man, I've had a tough day. I'll just chuck it and have someone bring my truck. And it was total weight is your Angler of the Year standings at the time. Yeah. And he missed the Classic by less than 4 pounds at the end of the year. Had the fish in the live well, literally threw it back, could have waded in. He said, that was the last time I did that.
Yeah, there's a lot of stories like that. It's really
But that was when I don't know if he still does it, but he was cranking with 30-pound braid.
Huh.
Straight 30-pound braid.
Yeah. Well, he's forgotten more about crankbaits than most of us will ever learn. That guy's a genius when it comes to tuning and getting crankbaits. I mean, the DT's success is all because of his effort. Mm-hmm. He did it for Pose. He's doing it for Berkeley now. I mean, wherever he goes, he's magic with crankbaits.
And they catch him.
Yeah. Yeah, don't judge his recent performance. That guy's a wealth of knowledge.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, talking about history, talking about going back, Ray Scott passing in the past year. I actually have that Bassmaster cover sitting on my I've only got like a quarter of my house decorated so far. I've been in there a year, Bernie. It's kind of depressing. But the part that is decorated, I've got the magazines laid out, got the Ray Scott one right on top there. When you talk about the history, the appreciation of the sport, the young guys coming up, even the old guys who have been in it for a long time, maybe take some stuff for granted. Where do you think we stand on that? And this past year, how important is it to make sure that we remember the guys who kind of paved these paths to be able to do what we do?
For me, it's essential. He was such a major factor in the success of so many businesses and the careers of so many anglers. Huge sales groups like rep groups and marketing firms were all developed as a result of his vision. Really, his impact on the sport was incredible, probably more so than anybody in our lifetime for sure, and before and down the road. Ray Scott was a special individual. He was a salesman, but he was genius. And one of the things that he was so good at was bringing people into not just the sport, but just making them believe in what he was doing and make them feel a part of what he was doing. I'll tell you, this is probably not going to be a popular comment, but I was really disappointed. I went to his service in Montgomery, and the lack of pro participation there or attendance really disappointed me. So many guys, their careers were built off, Ray and the Bass Angler Sportsman Society and what he developed and what he conceived. For them not to go there and pay respects really disappointed me. And a lot of big name pros weren't there that should have absolutely been in attendance. I thought it was disrespectful and disappointing. He didn't deserve that. Ray opened the door for a lot of people, and they don't come any better. To me, he and Forrest Wood are the two biggest names in fishing, and both of them did so much for people that they didn't even, like in the case of Forrest Wood, he helped guys he didn't even sponsor. He opened doors for people that he didn't even sponsor. He helped build the showcase with Ray, and for those guys not to be recognized at the level that they deserve is to me a travesty.
That's well said, Bernie. I talked with, actually called me as he was leaving, because I just had a conversation with him about the history and legacy of the sport. And Rick Pierce from Bass Cat is coming on the show on Monday to talk about some things. And he said, well, he didn't say dude. Rick doesn't say that, but he said, Matt. He said, Matt, when it's out, I want you to go watch Ray Scott's Celebration of Life memorial service. And it wasn't out at the time. And I got it pulled up here, and I know I talked with you about it, and I want to bring it up. I mean, it's not a sexy topic. It's not who's leaving where and who's upset at who and how did it,
right.
But it's the whole reason it all exists. And I think it's an essential part in understanding moves and decisions and where we came from and not, and where we're going in the future based on the roots. So, I mean, I kind of have a challenge for the BTL listeners, which is, I love the BTL listeners, man. These guys, thousands and thousands of people listen to an hour and a half show every single day, Monday through Thursday. And even if it's in place of listening to a BTL, not this one, because that's the only way you know it, Bassmaster has out on their Bassmaster YouTube channel. It's an hour and 51 minutes. It is Ray Scott's Celebration of Life memorial service. And it's only got 7,000 views on it right now. And there's a hell of a lot more than 7,000 people that would understand a lot about the sport and have an appreciation for what we have now based on one man's vision and the people that he then surrounded himself with to grow this thing. So Ray, just type in the YouTube, Ray Scott's Celebration of Life memorial service. I've got it pulled up while you were talking.
Yeah, it's must view.
So here's the crazy thing, Bernie. So this is how the whole thing starts, right? Can you see that?
Yeah, very well.
And I was watching it. My birthday is August 18th, 1984.
Oh, wow.
That's kind of weird. That's the Pine Bluff, Arkansas deal. But dude, I mean, just to go through it, there's all sorts of things about Ray. There's Rick. There's family members. There's all sorts of people throughout. I'm going through. There's Bob Cobb right there. Need to know who he is. There's all sorts, Roland Martin, all sorts of legends. Bill Dance talking there. Like I said, I'm going through the end of it. There's Bill Dance talking. All sorts of really cool stuff in that. So highly, highly recommend and challenge. Even if you don't listen to it, watch it. But if you're a fan of bass fishing, that is well worth the hour and 51 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, I have a lot of respect and admiration for what he did, but he gave me opportunities off the water. As you know, I was an illustrator for Bassmaster Magazine and Bass Times for quite a few years, and then I have kind of transitioned into just writing. But that opportunity came through Dave Precht and Ray Scott, and so I was able to realize another avenue in the sport aside from competitive fishing. So I have maybe stronger ties than a lot of guys, but still, there's so many guys out there that built their careers off of bass. You know, a day out of their lives couldn't have hurt to go and pay respects. I'm just so disappointed in that.
I hear you. I think you'll also understand. I'm not getting into the politics or any of this stuff, but I think if you watch that, you'll understand the deep-seated loyalty that certain people feel towards bass and why MLF wasn't 100% just like, oh yeah, this is great. It's because of this history that existed, Bernie.
Absolutely.
That's my personal opinion. And there are so many that don't understand that history, and I don't understand it as much as I should. Thankfully, I get to talk to a lot of people who do. I hung out with Harold Allen for 5 years, however you want to put his sense of history, but he appreciated the old guard, and having Ken Duke on and being able to go back and go, holy cow, there's 97 years of tournament experience between Rick Clunn and Larry Nixon, and they were fishing 10 years before I was born, and I'm going to get to watch both of them compete on the Bassmaster Elite Series this year with 141 championships between FLW and the Bassmaster Classic between them. I mean, that's cool that we live in a time where we still have that.
Yeah, it is very cool. I hope at some point they have a seniors tour and get some of the guys that are still kind of on the sidelines back involved. Like Roland. I'd like to see Roland back on tour, but the Elite Series, but that just hasn't happened yet. But
here's your challenge, Bernie. That will 100% happen. Like I said, Bass, Ray Scott, salesman, sat there at Toomer's Corner with the hat down there at Auburn, sold. I did the documentary, went down there, and guy said, yeah, Ray said he was in it to make money for profit. Yeah, he had a passion for it. Everything is, you find a way to make a senior tour lucrative where you can go to Bass and say, hey, you have 4 events with these guys, and here's how you make money on it. Guaranteed it happens. Yeah. Guaranteed. That's what it takes. It takes a group of people to say, here's how you will make money on it. Here's how it will benefit the organization. Then it benefits the fans, benefits the legends. That's how it happens.
Yeah. In fact, it might be in the works now.
That would be awesome, Bernie.
Yeah. I don't have any details, but that might be in the works now.
That would be awesome.
It's an awesome, lifestyle and sport that we have. And Ray was such a big factor in developing all that. So it's sad that he's gone, but man, did he leave his mark. I mean, he was bigger than life, and he did so many great things in the sport. And it was good to see the people that did show up. There was a good group there, and got to reconnect with a lot of old people, both people that I fished against, but also people that I worked with editorially through Bass. So it's just one of those things.
Mm-hmm. That got me fired up. Hopefully I didn't go too far off the rails.
Not at all. Not at all.
No. What else you got before you get on the road?
Just it's that time of year where we're selling boats and getting new boats rigged and working out sponsor contracts. We'll be ordering shirts here shortly, planning show schedules. I've been doing a lot of promotions with my son. My son's a rep in the fishing industry, and we share several brands together, Shimano primarily.
Really?
He's back in Florida. He started in Alabama and Georgia with the firm that he's with. It's a very large group called Don Coffey and Associates, and they have some great brands, Shimano, Costa del Mar, Engel Coolers, Loomis. They're big. And he's now back in Florida, which is his territory. And I've been helping him open some stores and do some in-store promotions, grand openings, and I'll be doing some more of that and fishing with him. He's my saltwater fishing buddy, and hopefully get on the water with my other son. He's down on the East Coast, and like to loop him in also. But it's kind of getting to the time of year where it's about family and family gatherings and trying to work that in, and then also prep for next year. I'm planning to do a lot of pre-fishing as well. There's several events that are well within range of my house. Seminole, Okeechobee, Murray, Santee Cooper, all those.
Oh, dude, you're that's a wheelhouse deal, Bernie.
It's a fabulous schedule. I have no excuses. There's really no weak links for me this year. The only thing that could set me back would be a really severe cold front in the 2 Florida events. I consider Seminole part of Florida. Mm-hmm. There's a bit of the lake that touches the state, but it's actually in Georgia and Alabama more so. But it fishes like Florida, and it's susceptible. It's got Florida strain, largemouth, and northern strain, and the cold fronts can wreak havoc on that lake just like they do the Florida lakes. But I don't have any excuses, really. It's a great schedule. We have 3 events in the north, and I like all 3 venues: St. Clair, Champlain, the St. Lawrence. Maybe my last good chance to really make a statement. So I'm looking forward to it.
I'm calling it right now. 10th classic coming up in 2024 for Bernie Schultz.
That'd be good.
Nice double-digit classic right there. I do have a question. You did mention the sponsors. Last year you ran was it the Power Pole Charge boat?
Yes, still am.
You still are? Okay, so if you listen to the debacle of BTL over the last year, you'll know that I'm with Pro Guide Batteries, and we had Matt Looney on, and he was describing all of the advantages, and then I roll with the guys who have the charge system. So the new Bass Cat that's coming in next year, lithium's with the Power Pole Charge. I'm excited to that. It seems like that's an unbelievable peace of mind with that Power Pole Charge system. Really easy to look at and it seems like you can go forever on that thing.
To me, it's as essential as power poles themselves. If you have a 30-minute run back to the ramp, your cranking battery and trolling batteries are mostly charged by the time you ever get to the hotel because of that. And it could save you on the water. If you have an issue on the water, it's got a jump start feature. It can charge while you're running down the lake. It can charge out of an AC outlet. It can balance the charge. You can direct the charge in your batteries, dictate where the charge goes. It connects to your phone. It's an awesome piece of equipment. And no guarantees, but it looks like we're going to have the new trolling motor for the new season.
That thing's like a Sasquatch, Bernie. We've been hearing and seeing blurry images and rumors that there's a power pole trolling motor out there for the last 5 years.
Well, one exists. I can prove. I've got one. I've had it on my skiff since May of 2021.
Wow,
more than a year, well more than a year, and it's flawless. That thing has done nothing but perform. It's silent. It's got incredible features. It's got a feature that no other contemporary trolling motor has, and I can't reveal that just yet. But it's the best trolling motor by far ever conceived. There's no contest. And mine's been in saltwater for a year and a half, and I grind it into bottom and oyster bars and marl and all kinds of substrate that would be hard on any other trolling motor. And this thing performs like the day I got it. And I'm told that we will have them for the season. So I'm excited about that.
That's good stuff. Yeah, I remember, didn't they kind of first introduce the charge? Like Chris Lane did a big deal at the Classic on it, but then it kind of went away or they revamped it or something. And this, like the past year, I asked like 10 guys who I knew had it. And it was 10 for 10. Like, yeah, you're an idiot for not having it, especially if that was an option. They're like, it's 10 for 10. Like, didn't have a single guy that was like, it's okay. They were all like, yeah, no, it's amazing.
Yeah. Well, on the charge system, I'm working with a battery company that's located close to Power Pole, and he's designed his batteries to complement the algorithms of the charge system. It's the brand is Don't Die. It's made by Lithium Battery Company. I have a set of batteries that I bought from this guy in 2015 for my skiff. They're in my skiff today, and they're as strong today as they were the day I got them. And not all lithium batteries are created equal. People really need to do their research. But I would suggest they at least look into Don't Die, simply because his batteries sync well with the charge algorithm and system. So you don't have a problem with batteries going to sleep on you or not getting charged equally, which has been an issue for some, lithium batteries, as I'm sure you're well aware of.
I would love to know in 1967 if you were to mention battery algorithms and seeing underwater in front of the boat. I bet Ray Scott would have just taken his hat off and said, "What?"
Yeah. As a visionary as he was, it probably shocked him.
Yeah, I mean, he was. That's the reason we have live wells. That's the reason we have kill switches. That's the reason that the modern bass boat has developed. I mean, basically everything that exists is a result of progress that started with Ray, and that Ray pushed and then found people that, like a forest, or to progress the sport. So, Bernie, this has been good stuff, man. I've really enjoyed it.
Likewise, it's always a pleasure, and you do a good thing, man. Hopefully your followers are watching and appreciating what you do.
It is. It's been a really good year. If you guys miss Mark Jeffries, which obviously I miss Mark Jeffries, it's a different show. It's a totally different show without him. It's just a different show. It's just me, not Mark. And Mark had different ideas. He's an old school guy, and I'm sure that some of my rant was a rub off of, Mark Jeffries over the last 14 years with it. But he actually did a Mark After Dark yesterday on his birthday last night. I didn't listen to it. I just let him have it. It's the second time he's jumped on at like 10 p.m. and just done a show for a couple of hours. But he's doing great. Bernie, I don't know when the last time you talked to him is. He is now a head bowling coach, has a massive recruiting budget, is traveling all over the country trying to get high school bowlers to go to Southern Nazarene University for their inaugural program that he is the head coach of.
I'm sure he'll be successful at whatever he does. We used to say he was the hardest working man in bass fishing. I'd get up at 5 a.m., 4:30 a.m. in the morning for a tournament, and he'd be in the lobby of the hotel banging away on a keyboard. You can come back after dinner at night, he'd be sitting there banging away on a keyboard, covering the events. And I think you are the guy that he clearly passed the baton to. So you're working your way into that role as we speak. So good job.
That's high praise. So I'm sure I'll see you on the road at one of two of the events that I get to this year. I'm planning on doing a couple more on location things, not at every Elite Series, but I'd like to get to a couple of them this year. So I'm on the road. I have to go film a TV show, crappie fishing on Lake Eufaula, which is going to be doable but challenging. So that starts at noon. I got the rig lined up to do that. You are headed with your Fan Frog and a number of other lures to the Savannah Tackle Show. If you are in that area, $5 to get in. The website that you can go to again is, what is it again? FATC.net.
Yes.
November 11th and 12th at the Hilton Savannah Airport Conference. Is that it? Hilton Savannah?
It's the Embassy Suites by
Embassy Suites.
Yeah, and kids under 12 are admitted free with an adult, if they're with an adult. And I would encourage anybody within range to come see us. You'll learn a lot. You'll meet some guys there that are extremely knowledgeable. Some other fishing pros will be there. The Watch brothers from Power Pole, they'll be there. They're redfish champions. Chuck Hedden, great grandson of Charles Hedden, he'll be there.
That's bait royalty, isn't it?
Yes, sir. Yep, it'll be a cool event. Oh, and Dave Pfeiffer is our illustrious president at Shimano America. He's supposed to show up, and I'm looking forward to it. He's a jig collector. He likes saltwater jigs, which are a whole other facet themselves.
Hey, do you have any of those like $1,000 Shimanos that are like they're heavy, but they're like silver, and then you can take a plate off and it's got like expert, like total free. You know what I'm talking about?
No, none of those are in my quiver.
Okay. Anyway, Jared Miller had a couple of them, and he let me. I was like, I'm real poor right now. Like, I'm waiting for Denali's reels to come out, so I'm like working with scraps here. And he's like, I was like, what? He's like, you want to use them for Hartwell? You might have to cast a long way to those spots. And I was like, absolutely. Holy cow! It's literally like a computer when you cast.
Well, yeah. If you're talking about the DC series, that they've employed that concept in a number of reels across the board. It kind of trickled down. That was their highest end feature for a while, and now you can get that in the Corrado. So they got a reel at every price point for every level of angler out there, left and right hand retrieves, bait and spin. And the quality is just so good now. Shimano's done such a great job in bringing their high end concepts to affordable reels at lower price points, and
this was not the affordable one. It wasn't even enjoyable to run with it, because a couple times I'd be running and I'd be like, oh, it's not strapped, and I would just shut down in the middle of the lake water over the back. I'd be like, even if I cash a check and lose one, I break even. Yeah, the sky's the limit on what you can spend for reels, but they're lifetime reels too, and they have features that are off the charts in it's good concept stuff and design. Anyway, I just wondered if you had that, because I was like, I made a catch with it. And then I hooked one. I didn't even realize the drag was going out on it. And I'm like, why is he not? And then I realized it was like peeled drag. It's like butter. It was good stuff. All the technology now across the companies and everything. It's insane how much good stuff is out there. It is. Across the board. It truly is. All right, Bernie, I'll let you get on the road. Greatly appreciated. We're kind of all over the board, but I guess we'll have you back on in the first quarter of 2023 after you back-to-back top 10 events in your neck of the woods. Sound good? I hope that works out. Yeah, I like the sound of that, and always a pleasure. I'll definitely be here, and I appreciate anybody that was listening in. All right. See you, Bernie. Thank you. Bye-bye. All right. That was Bernie Schultz. Covered a variety of topics there, and I went on a history rant, which is something that I haven't done in a long time. So, all right, we're going to take our final break of the show, come back, wrap things up with what we have going on for the rest of the week, and then I'm getting on the road to go try to catch a couple crappie. BTL on a Wednesday. We'll be back right after that.
Combining one of the most popular hook styles with Gamakatsu's beefier Superline offering, the Gamakatsu Superline Offset Round Bend delivers the strength necessary to target big fish in heavy cover. Well suited for braided line and heavier fluorocarbon, the Gamakatsu Superline Offset Round Bend is built using stronger Superline wire that allows anglers to easily fish a finesse worm around heavy cover. The round bend offers a larger bite area, perfect for any worm presentation, while increasing your hookup ratios. The newly enhanced Z-bend holds your plastics on the hook longer, reducing the number of pull-offs and reducing damage to plastics. Available in 2/0, 3/0, 4/0, and 5/0, this is the most durable worm hook, designed for heavier lines that hold your bait on longer.
Preparation is key to success. And that preparation starts well before you ever hit the water. You're only as strong as your connection to the fish, and your line is that critical connection. Confidence in your line every minute of every day on the water is a necessity, and failure, it's not an option. Sunline makes the fluorocarbon, nylon, and braided lines to give you the strength to guarantee your confidence.
Vibrating jigs are a great choice for any time of year, and the Kamikaze Swim-On is a perfect match for any vibrating jig. Two sizes and the unique tail design gives it a bait fish profile and a great swimming action for realism. There are 17 colors. See them all at bigbitebaits.com. The Spro Little John crankbait has been around for almost 15 years, and it is one of my go-to crankbaits whenever I need a fish in the boat, so you can never have enough new colors. That's why Spro's coming out with a handful of new colors, including Pearl Shad, which has this bleached out white look, but it's got this pearlescent, really, really pretty. We've got Copper Shad, which looks amazing in the water. It's got that purple flake on the back, really, really pops in the water. And then if you want some real pop, we've got Sparkle Shad, nothing but sparkles all over this thing. And then last but not least, we've got the matte Sexy Shad, just a really different looking color for a crankbait. So you want to give them a little different look, that matte Sexy Shad is definitely the one to go with. All these colors are available in the original Little John and the MD.
Have you considered purchasing new electronics for your rig? The type of mounts you choose to protect your investment should be part of the decision-making process. No matter if you prefer 1, 2, or 3 graphs up front, Beatdown Outdoors has a solution for you. Adjustable, versatile, rigid, and made in the USA. What's your ultimate electronics setup? Check out the full selection of Beatdown Outdoors products by visiting beatdownoutdoors.com. All right, wrapping things up here on a Wednesday with BTL. Big shout out to Bernie Schultz. Like I said, I think he hung out a little extra before he got on the road to that antique lure event. I kind of understand that. Like, my dad is like one of the foremost authorities in the world on antique soldering irons. When I go home and visit, like I will for a day for Thanksgiving coming up, my room has very well organized boxes that all have antique soldering irons in them, and then there's like a little tag with a number on each soldering iron, and then that number equates to a 3-ring binder with a notebook that has where he got it from, the patent for that particular antique soldering iron, and then the history behind the inventor or that, and he's got that for thousands of them. Kind of a cool thing. Probably end up in a museum somewhere in the next 50 years. So, all right. Someone, we got big story time tomorrow with Frank Scalish, because I think he may have had a brush with the 10-pound smallmouth. I was talking to Frank afterwards. I mentioned this on the show before. He said, dude, he did say dude. He does say dude. He said, dude, Frankie and I were out there, man. He said, we were out there smashing them. And that was like, I think that he has deducted that he was within like 10 miles or less of fishing with Frankie when the 10.15 smallmouth was caught last week. So I'm sure we're going to dive into that on day 4 with the man, Uncle Frank Scalish. I also mentioned it with Bernie, Rick Pierce from Bass Cap Boats. Another guy who was at Ray Scott's Celebration of Life a couple months ago, or a month ago. He passed away in May of this past year. But we'll get Rick on. He's going to talk a little bit about what's going on with the boating industry, bass cap boats, maybe talk a little bit about maybe some winterization, what to look for in that, and then his take. I want to get his take on Larry Nixon coming back to the Elite Series, all sorts of stuff. Always good story time with Rick Pierce when he's on BTL. And then I don't know what else we have for next week. Like I said, they just came out with the list of BPT guys and the guys who are on and the guys who are not on. So maybe I'll dive into that when we have time. But I am on my way to Eufaula now to go try to catch a crappie. Big shout out to Bernie Schultz. We'll see everyone tomorrow for another Day 4 with Frank Scalish. See ya.